What is up, beautiful souls? Today I want to talk about love. I want to talk about the essence of self-love. I want to recognize that love, just like any other energy frequency, has a duality. So we have self-love and we have on the opposite side, narcissism. And often these two can be misconstrued because they are such similar energetic frequencies, but polar opposites. And if you don't understand what self-love is, you can easily be manipulated or programmed to believe that you are being boisterous, prideful, selfish, and thoughtless when it comes to making sure that you are showing up in any given situation or relationship or circumstance the best that you can be. I want to welcome you to or back to the channel. I'm Crystal, and here on Crystal Clear, we talk all things spiritual. We forget in the dynamic of the duality is exactly why we came here to ascend. But in the grief, in the strife, in the heartache, in the reality of how much sometimes the pain really feels, we forget that. And that's my only hope, is to help us grow through these challenges, to remember that we signed up for it and there's something much bigger at play. I think love is the essence of who we are. I think it does exist in this world. I think there's many people that embody this, encapsulate it, and even demonstrate it through relationships. And you know it because you can feel the aura, you can feel the harmony of it, and how you can feel the purity when you see it and when it's reflected and it's around you. And the ideal end objective is for you to be able to deliver that not only for yourself, but onto others. We are the ones that set the standard, the bar, to whatever degree we choose. Ironically enough, that same standard is the amount that we are able to allocate love to others. The more my cup overfloweth, the more I can give to you. Still, on the opposite side, in a world where if it's toxic or narcissistic or just programmed, the duality gets pretty toxic, it gets pretty loud. It reminds me of the quote, every action is either an act of love or a call for love. In a world where the call for love is loud, it's in a tantrum, it's asking to be seen, it sometimes takes up the whole environment and becomes the new norm. That's what I'm trying to say, is that more often than not, this is the type of love, the narcissistic, the attention grabbing, the unbalanced gets our attention. And like many, we will attract in these kind of relationships, giving our life force, becoming a martyr, selfless at the cost of sacrificing the essence of who we are to save face. I know for myself personally, to understand, to answer the calling of the karma lesson that was being knocked for myself personally, would require things to get very uncomfortable. I had to swim in my own misery, if you would, before I decided to answer that call and really begin to dive deep to understand the intimacy of what love really means. I would find myself in a very toxic relationship, feeling that I was absolutely in love and that he was the one that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I would go so far to not only allow this energy vampire to take every ounce of my life force away, I would probably hand deliver the drops that were left as I tried to recharge. The toxicity of this relationship, when I say I'm swimming in my despair, if you will, genuinely feels like I was being choked out of my spirit. It's a spiritual warfare. And the label gets it deserves its due respect, because that's really what it is. But you can't know one without the other, right? And as I would pray for clarity, I would pray for compassion, I prayed for courage. I remember my guides being there. I remember my higher self, my intuition guiding me, but still being unable to navigate this fully. I would study and understand that the best course of action is to take my life, my frequency, my energy back, And that would include things like going no contact. And if you're not capable of doing that, you must go gray rock. These techniques are necessary if you are in a toxic relationship. And if you have to go gray rock, just a side note, I want to just acknowledge how beautiful, how marvelously strong your soul is, because it is not easy to break these dynamics when you are in it and the cords are thick. So what I want to say for myself, to begin to practice self-love, and it's a great starting point for you, is to think about somebody that you genuinely love with all your heart. You may or may not understand love. And one of the best, maybe, not only am I going to suggest this route, but also you can test the frequency of your own love and how well you play it out. And that is finding somebody that you love with all your heart. For me, it was my son. Recognizing if my son was in the same situation, relationship that I was in, I would want him to walk away. I would beg for him to walk away, to save the essence of who he was, to see his worth, to recognize he deserves better. But when it came to implementing that for myself, it was quite hard. And I'm not even talking about this relationship. I'm talking about with any given circumstance. When you look at somebody you love with all of your heart and you have an outside perspective and you're able to give advice so freely and easily, can you put yourself in your own shoes and accept your own loving guidance? It's not nearly as easy, especially when you're on the outside looking in, but it is one of the most potent things you can do for yourself. And I knew for myself, that's what I would have to do. And the day I told my ex in this scenario situation to walk away, I realized I was taking on maybe one of the, it was like recognizing there's two different kind of pains out there. There's the pain of ripping off the Band-Aid and feeling it all at once and praying to God it's going to heal, or else the long, long drawn out pain that never, ever, ever will get better, but can leave me lingering in a limerence of hope, which is a toxic cycle that up to this point has proven would never change. I knew that in my no contact, I couldn't ever reach out for my dopamine, for my hit again, if you will, my hit of addiction. And knowing that this was the first step of trying to implement self-love without really understanding what self-love was, I was crying that night, and I was crying to God. I was crying to my angels. I was crying to anybody that would hear me and hold me, because I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. Hell, I didn't know what even self-love meant. And I remember clear as day, as I had laid there crying, did I do the right thing? I heard clear as day the question, why did you do it? And as I would reflect and I would harness all this, why did I do it? Well, one, I wanted the toxicity to end. I couldn't handle it anymore. I was losing myself so far. I needed the loop to come to an end. Two, because I wanted to trust my intuition. It had never led me astray. But like intuition, like any other energy frequency, it too lays on an energetic frequency of a duality. I knew my intuition was telling me it's time to go. I wanted to honor that. I wanted to honor that because, on a side note, another relationship before, I had discredited it for so long that my intuition manifested it into insecurity to the point where I couldn't discern the two. I want you to know this because you should follow your intuition all the way. Otherwise, that's when you second guess yourself. That's a side note. Number 3, the third reason I decided to walk away is because I wanted to be obedient. Obedient in circumference of this overwhelming faith, knowing that my guides, my love, like the angels, God had the best interest and welfare of my heart. Obedience to know that they had a higher perspective. And all the times that they had asked me to walk away, that for the first time, I submitted and I trusted them. And unbeknownst to me, I think it was Jesus. genuinely, because it's taken me a while to understand these energies, if you will. But I heard clear as day, my child, that is self-love. And as beautiful as that was, there was still more to come. It's one thing to acknowledge it, but another thing to begin to implement it and to really integrate it into your life. And through my healing, there was many different integrations. And I would write about the different paradigms that would come in. And I remember even out on my posts for Crystal Clear, my community, our tribe would challenge us. And they did. In fact, there was one brother that would post about a scripture. And I would have to take it in. And I really had to meditate on it. What does this really mean? And through my healing, this is what I hope to bring forward to you guys. One, to begin practicing self-love, think about somebody you absolutely love that you put on the highest pedestal. Are you implementing those things as you would for yourself, as you would give to your own advice to others, if you will? I want to talk about scripture, and I'm sure it was written for a different time and a different influence, but I've taken the scripture, I've taken it to heart to understand self-love to a different degree because it really, really challenged me. And it may challenge you. Recognize it's all energy, just different circumstances and situations. For me, I've applied this to self-love. Moreover, I've also made a post way back when in regards to what I believe self-love means. And then in foresight, combining these two, as I've gone through some of my old stuff, I see how they intertwine, how they relate. And I hope to bring forth this scripture to what I've discovered about self-love and put the tailspin of how I see it in hopes that you can take it, meditate on it, and take the little pieces that resonate with you. Because understanding self-love is an intimate process. First and foremost, we're going to see this in the beginning, but there are 2 commandments, and I should have wrote it down, so I'm not going to butcher it. But the first one is love God. Love God first with all of your heart, ultimately, followed by love thy neighbor as you would yourself. I think the first commandment is designed that way because I don't think that we understand real love until we love the divine, our creator. To make God or whoever or whatever name you want to associate with as your lover. To put them first so that the divine, your creator, can teach you what love is because that's who created you. And who created you is within you and you are a part of that spark. But you have to become very intimate to get to know them before you can demonstrate that love to your neighbor as you would yourself, right? Going back to what I was saying in the beginning, you set the bar of how to be loved. And only as you set the bar, thus can my cup overflow and I can love you the best I know, and vice versa. Today we're going to talk about Luke 14:25-33. I don't usually do this, though I do see scripture, not as religious, but as some men, and I believe women, this is a different story, with books that have been omitted, with their own psychic ability, with their own intuitive understanding and their own relationship with God. This one in particular really challenged me when I first read it. But I'm going to break it down. We're going to break it down, and I'm going to tell you what I wrote and intertwine it. So let's Now, great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." The scripture uses the word hate. Hate, this goes back to what I was just saying earlier. Kind of like this is where it began to challenge me, right? I use the love I have for my son to practice self-love. Can I put Jesus, God, the creator, the essence of who we are before all else, including myself, self-love or narcissist, whatever you want to say, before him? Well, I don't know that we can understand love without knowing and putting him first and foremost. So in the post I wrote earlier about self-love, this was a few years ago, here is the thing about self-love. You must embrace all that you are. Well, to know who you are is to know that you are the spark of God, the divine, the essence of love. You know your heart more intimately than anyone in this world. Who knows your heart better than yourself? Recognize true forgiveness starts within, and understand that your worth is only based on self-limiting beliefs, which in turn ricochets massive self-discipline to reach high bars because the commitment and loyalty you hold is in your esteem. The power of self-love enables you freedom of a need to seek validation. Brother, sister, sibling, children, mother, father, yourself, seek your own validation from another or to feel less than lovable. This is what it means for me in this first part of the scripture is to love me above all else. You must come to me and put me first, because only when you put me first can you literally learn to self-love yourself to the essence and to the capacity to love another. It is going to call upon understanding yourself to a raw authenticity. And I may be getting ahead of myself. So let's go to the next part of this verse. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. This intertwines as well with the other part of my post, but I'm going to continue. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? How I've intertwined that and how I wrote it before. In the embracing your own cross, if you will, counting the cost of the tower, you will begin to welcome your innate gifts of discernment, intuition, and wisdom. This is the embracing of knowing thyself and the gifts that have been bestowed with you so that you can count the cost, for which these are the tools blessed to help save hardship. When you know yourself and you're no longer validating yourself outside to another that is unconscious and unaware of their own beauty and their own mirror, can you come in to God, the divine frequency, the essence of love, and be bestowed those tools to welcome and save yourself from the hardship of how this outside world would scream for acts of love. Otherwise, this goes back to the scripture. Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who sees it begin to mock him. This is the thing about this, comes back to my post. The thing about self-love, it empowers healthy and authentic relationships as it acts as the model of what it represents. A true meaning of an entire, messy, high-striving love, which you get to define, there's your bar, through your own evolution. This is the foundation, and you are never to be pushed or mocked again because it's between you and the Creator, and you are displaying this love for others. This is how I've come to understand self-love. It is intimate. It is raw. And you can't know one without the other, but you've got to know who you are. And that begins by putting all your focus on the flash, the light, the spark of love, of light, of truth that you were born from, created from. And if there's not a duality, you can't know who that is. That is one of the structures of coming here to play it out. The humanity, the matrix, to have a contrast so you can see your own light. And then as you do, as you embody it, as you radiate it, as that harmony, you give permission for others to do so in return. That's why I wanted to talk about self-love. Self-love is the intimate road of learning to trust that intuition, the higher self that is connected directly to the source, to become obedient to things that are of the spiritual world without being able to see with your physical eyes, and to do the things that are the most healthiest for you so you can give that to others. I love you guys so much. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, if any of this has resonated, I ask you to rate, to comment. This is how we share and get our tribe and our community to grow. If you are on YouTube, I welcome you here to also subscribe if you haven't, to comment, and to like. Just share with a brother or sister that may need the message. And above all else, I want you to know I love you. I love you with all my heart, and I give gratitude because of some intimate nights that I have discovered that through my own encounter with our Creator. You are beautiful. You are the essence of love, and you deserve to be seen. You deserve to shine, and you deserve to express truth. I honor you. I love you. And until next time, wishing you guys love and light. Namaste.